Welcome back to Far From Perfect, everyone. I am your host, Kylie Larson, and today I have with me Esther Blum. She is a registered dietitian, an author, and a menopause expert. Thank you so much for being here, Esther.
Thank you for having me, Kylie. It's so great. After finally, you and I really took a little while to get this done, and I'm so stoked we're here. Truly.
Well, I have to tell you, everyone, I originally saw you. It was Jade Tita that had shared a video of you guys chatting, and I went down a rabbit hole of you, your profile, and everything, and I saw your most recent book, See You Later, Ovulator. Immediately had to go purchase it, and I love this book so much for perimenopausal women, for menopausal women, and postmenopausal women, because I can understand it. I think just a regular person can understand what you're communicating, and it is full of actionable, helpful things that we can be doing right now. So thank you for putting this out there.
Oh, my pleasure. And actually, it's funny, one of my really close friends, she was like, I don't understand science. I'm really not sure what to do with my menopause. And I said, I'm writing the book for you. So that's exactly who I wrote it to, as if we were speaking in a conversation. Because I agree with you. Listen, there's some really amazing menopause books out there if you're a clinician. Yeah. But this needs to make it, the goal was to make it really accessible and understandable, and not having to have any degree or background in science to get through it.
Well, and I love the fact too, number one, more and more women, at least in my world, we're having this conversation. We're saying the words menopause, perimenopause, because I always talk about, not all of us are going to have children, but every single one of us who has a uterus, who are biological females, we're going to go through perimenopause.
That's right. And it's not even taught in medical school. Can you imagine? And even in residency, right? Even in residency, it's very minimal, and it's all drug routes. It's all, the solutions are synthetic hormones and birth control. Quite honestly, no one's talking about bioidenticals. No one's talking about lifestyle. So I was like, well, hell no, I'm going to give women the tools they need to not to sit and wait until medical schools start teaching this, but to just say, nope, this is mine. I'm going to claim it. I'm going to get it and get my life back on track.
Well, and that's the other thing I really appreciate about you, your Instagram account, and your book is this is an empowering situation versus, I know it's kind of fun to bitch and moan about all the things that happen to us in perimenopause, all of the symptoms, but that's not the point. We're not bitching and moaning. We're saying this is happening and this is how we are going to grab this by the balls and really help ourselves to feel better.
Totally. Grab it by the lady balls, ladies.
Yeah, the lady balls. Exactly.
Yeah, because it's ridiculous. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. You don't have to suffer. No way.
Well, I think, and I love that message. So here's what I encounter sometimes with women. I was just speaking with a woman on Instagram this morning who's 51, and she wasn't sure if she was in perimenopause. And I was like, at your age, I'm going to say, yeah, you are. So what do you say to the woman? I don't know, Esther, how do I know if I'm in perimenopause? How can we tell?
So I test, I don't guess. I'm a dietitian, not a magician. I have no idea what's happening in your body, which is why I run tests. And a great test to look at your hormones is the Dutch test. It's a dried urine test for comprehensive hormones. This is going to tell you your levels of estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and DHEA. And it's going to look at how those hormones are being metabolized through your liver. Are they being detoxified the way they should be and gently running through? Or are you going down a more pro-inflammatory, potentially precancerous pathway? So I rule that out. A blood test, I don't do blood tests, or I don't recommend blood tests for hormones at this juncture, because a woman's hormones can fluctuate 30% on any given day, let alone any given hour. So it's not as reliable of a source during perimenopause.
That's great. I do have an acquaintance that does run Dutch tests, but for those people who don't have the same network as you and I, who can they look for that who can administer these Dutch tests?
Yes, a functional medicine doctor nurse practitioner, naturopathic physician, dietitian,
Right.
can run Dutch tests.
Good to know. What about
Mhm.
these other symptoms? I mean, I think everyone is familiar with hot flashes, but what else? Like for me, I noticed my hair started falling out. That was really scary. Then I had dreams about it. Put me in a very bad
Oh.
spot. But like in the mood swings, worsening PMS. What are some other telltale signs that we might be in perimenopause?
Yeah. So a longer stretch of PMS, like if you were
Mhm.
getting PMS maybe a couple days, it can stretch out to like 2 weeks. So the first and second half of the month feel like completely different experiences.
Mm.
Disruption in sleep, increase in irritability, blood clots, heavier periods, more hemorrhagic with the
Mhm.
bleeding. Some women go through vaginal dryness, some have brain fog.
Mhm.
Some women get dry, itchy ears and an itchy nose as well, decreased in libido. So it's really the symptoms of perimenopause and menopause are not terrifically different, which is the most fascinating. But obviously in menopause, you no longer have to contend with a monthly cycle. And girl, sign me up. I'm like, every month when I do get a cycle, I'm like, no, we're done here. We're done here. And I'm like pointing to my uterus. I'm like, ladies, let my ovaries, please, let's be done.
Let's be done.
I'm
We've
so
paid
excited to
our
be free
dues.
from that. Oh my gosh. Especially months when I get like super painful cramps or like have a cyst that ruptures. Oh my
Oh,
God. It is extraordinarily painful.
well,
So
and I
I'm ready
think
to be done.
totally. And I think that we also need to like, this does not, yes, we're getting older in age, whatever. But like, it doesn't mean if we're going through perimenopause, it doesn't mean that we're old or that we're old
No,
ladies now. I think we can
no.
release any negative like connotation that this has. We're
Yeah.
just changing.
That's right. This is actually the time when you get the most powerful because often, you actually lose your filter. You learn to say no really, really well
Huh?
and advocate for yourself because you're like, I can't do this anymore. I'm
Oh,
kind of done
huh.
with putting up with people or things that just don't serve me and aren't a good use of my time. Because you do, a lot of a big thing too, I think that changes is resilience.
Mm.
Your bandwidth for BS just
Yep.
goes way, way down. And you're like, every inch of my body says, hell no. So I'm not doing this. I'm
I mean,
absolutely not.
yeah, talk about a powerful time in our lives. Sign me up for more of that.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing I really wanted to ask you about was so these symptoms that we're experiencing, before we dive into like HRT and all of that, what are the lifestyle factors that you have your patients, clients address before
Yeah.
we even move into that conversation of hormone replacements or anything like that?
Yes, because hormones are a piece of the pie. If you think that they're a panacea and going to fix everything, you're really mistaken. So you want to make sure that you address, of course, I'm a dietitian. I'm going to say diet. Diet comes first, and I can unpack that some more. Sleep, which is your metabolic mistress, regulates your insulin sensitivity and supports your adrenals and just helps you focus mentally and feel human. Stress management, this is like a non-negotiable at this point in life.
Mhm.
Supplements as needed by your tests. You got to really have a good diet first. Don't think supplements are going to do all the heavy lifting either.
Mhm.
And strength training, building muscle mass is also another really important piece of the pie. And all of those, this is a time where, again, it's like you cannot no longer write checks that your body cannot cash. Like you cannot go out drinking 4 nights a week, getting really poor sleep and being sedentary and think that your body is going to run the way it did in your 20s. Those days are gone.
Mhm.
This is a time when you're like, I need to pivot. I need to pick up some weights and eat some protein and cut back on the booze and shut down my phone at night. All of those are like, again, non-negotiable, imperative, actionable steps.
I agree with that. I talk about that stuff a lot, and I love when other people also talk about it because it's like, see, I'm not the only one. It's like when, a kid asks their mom and the mom says no, so they go and run and ask dad. It's like, see, we are on the same page. Everyone is talking about this stuff. Let's do
Mm-hmm.
this.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Mm-hmm.
as we dial this stuff in, then we can have this conversation about hormone replacement. And
Yes.
That's the other thing I love about your book. Like, I feel like your book is the first book I've read where I kind of feel like I understand what I need to ask when I go into a doctor's office. But for anyone who hasn't read the book, like, what does that process look like? How do we decide between bioidenticals and the pellets? Like, I know your stance on pellets. I would love you to share that. Like, where do we start that conversation?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the prescribing physician or practitioner who you choose to work with is critical. And a lot of people say, I need to find someone network. You may actually save yourself a lot more time, money, and headache down the line when you go out of network, because you're going to get exactly what you want. And I say this based on stories that women have told me and my own experiences in doctors' offices, where, again, remember, a traditionally trained physician is not taught about menopause. So they may be unwilling to even have a discussion about hormones. They may say, I'm totally open to it, but not know how to prescribe and then ultimately treat hormonal replacement therapy, because they don't know that, oh, by the way, you have to get your blood test done or redo your Dutch every 3 to 4 months. Like, you have to have regular monitoring. Whereas if you go to someone who is more functionally based, they're going to know, oh, these are the tests I do to check your hormones. Oh, these are the delivery systems and the dosages we're going to start you at. And then this is how we're going to follow up and monitor your care and make sure your bone density is optimized, make sure your hot flashes are gone. And, you know, so all of those things, it really does matter who you partner with, because I've had many clients who want me to tell their doctor how to dose their hormones. And I'm like, no, no, no. I can only test and I can prescribe supplements, but I can't prescribe hormones. That needs to be done by a physician. So I can give you recommended starting places. But again, like, this is where you need to work with a good doctor. So it makes a lot of sense. In terms of synthetic versus bioidentical hormones, to me, it's a no-brainer, because bioidentical hormones are physiologically compatible with a woman's body. A woman's body cannot distinguish the difference between a plant-based hormone and its own endogenous production of hormones. So I do recommend really being mindful of bioidenticals. They're also far more gentle. So they're about a fifth of the dose of a birth control pill. Okay. So birth control pills or an IUD are not meant to treat menopausal symptoms. What they often do is, they're synthetic estrogens and what are called progestogens. And so synthetic progestogens they will often suppress your body's own production of progesterone. And this is a time, and this is a time in life when we're actually already deficient in progesterone and irritable and not sleeping well and having heavy periods and having panic attacks and anxiety. And so if you put a woman in that situation on synthetic hormones, you can worsen the situation. At that time in life, we actually need people to add in hormones. So interestingly enough, like, I have women in my practice who are on an IUD and they don't want to go off the IUD because their periods are so heavy, but we still have their doctor prescribe them progesterone, bioidentical, because bioidentical progesterone makes GABA. It makes this very calming neurotransmitter that helps you sleep and takes away your irritability and will help control those raging hemorrhagic periods. So you really do want to do bioidentical hormones. Now, the other advantage of bioidentical versus pellets, right? Pellets, think of pellets as, pellets are surgically inserted into like your butt muscle, basically. There's no clinical studies done on pellets, and the body has no ability to regulate the rate at which your hormones are released into your bloodstream. So imagine, right, you go car shopping, You pick out, you've been driving like a Nissan or, you know, just like a gentle engine car. And all of a sudden you get in a Lambo and take off at 120 miles an hour. That is what the experience of hormone pellets is like, where women, again, I'm quoting the stories I've heard from hundreds of women where they're like, well, it got rid of my hot flashes, but then my libido was like so crazy. I was ragingly angry or hysterically crying. And I gained 10 to 15 pounds on the pellets, like boom, overnight, very short periods of time. And then they have to wait until the hormones get out of their system, which takes months. And they start to go through withdrawal because, again, the levels, even though they're so much higher than a menopausal woman ever needs to have her hormone levels be, the body starts to immediately still get rebound withdrawal symptoms. So again, we just need gentle hormone replacement. We are not trying to get periods and ovulate and carry a baby. We're just trying to offset the risk of osteoporosis, of Alzheimer's, and cardiovascular disease. So a little goes a long way.
So if one were to start with bioidenticals, so let's say I started bioidenticals like when I was 46 years old. Would one be on those bioidenticals until the day they die? How does that work?
The research right now is saying it's safe and acceptable for women to be on hormones for at least 10 years. But there are a lot of doctors that are still prescribing my clients in their 70s hormones. And I believe more and more research is going to come out to show they're safe and effective. And as long as you're properly getting monitoring, as long as you are detoxing your hormones properly and you're on the right diet and potentially supplements to support that, like I think you're good to go. And the quality of life changes are incredible. I mean, you give a woman her life back. That's part of the reason why I wrote See You Later, Ovulator, because I was like, every woman has the right to deserve this knowledge that is in research studies. I have 20 pages of research studies in the back. The research is there to support offsetting all of these issues of chronic aging, not to mention like vaginal atrophy and painful sex. Like, oh my gosh, why are people telling women to just use a lubricant when they're getting UTIs and their pelvic floor is collapsing? No, they need either vaginal estrogen and or DHEA at the very least. So it's like, it's criminal that women are suffering and that suffering is normalized for women.
I agree. And it makes me so grateful to be this age now versus 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I mean, I just think about what the generations before us were going through. They probably weren't talking about it. They probably felt like shit. I mean,
yeah, well, and I mean, decades of women were deprived this knowledge because there was that stupid Women's Health Initiative study that was done in the 90s. And it took postmenopausal women, so they're out of menopause or in menopause, fully menopausal for 10 years, put them on Premarin, which is derived from the urine of pregnant horses. How is that physiologically compatible with a woman's body? And gave them no opposing progesterone, right? And hormones don't work singularly. They work in a team, right? With progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, DHEA, pregnenolone, like there's a whole team. So you're isolating one hormone, synthetically giving that to a woman. And then they decided, they concluded, oh, by the way, yeah, hormones are dangerous. They're going to cause cancer. They're going to give you blood clots and heart attacks. And finally, thank goodness, scientists revisited that study, and the North American Menopause Society revamped its position papers in 2018 and 2021 or 22. I believe it's 22, sorry. And they said, you know what? That study, the design was poor. The data was not interpreted correctly. And by the way, hormones are safe. They're effective. They will enhance a woman's quality of life. And early intervention is best, and they can be on them a minimum of 10 years. So now the problem is playing catch up, right? If you go to the pharmacy for your prescription of hormones. You'll see like the long warning labels of how dangerous they are, or doctor's office still have pamphlets. There's a lot of conventional doctors, some very big ones on Instagram, that are doing women a huge disservice and scaring the crap out of them, making them think they're going to have cancer. And if you get a woman who is suffering, but concerned because she has a family history of cancer, again, that doesn't mean she's going to get cancer. She goes on bioidentical hormones. You have to look at her methylation pathways. You have to support her nutrition and diet. And you have to have her partner with a practitioner who's really going to assess her cancer risk and say, the benefits far outweigh the risk. Like, you can either have crumbling bones at age 60 or a 5% risk of developing cancer. So, that's why I love the testing that I do. In particular, the Dutch really looks at methylation pathways. But I also look at the GI map and make sure that estrogen's being detoxed in the gut as well.
So I'm glad that you brought up the GI test. I've also recently done that test, just as I'm trying to optimize as I go through this transition in life. You've mentioned the Dutch test, the GI map test. Are those the two main tests that you recommend for women in this age frame, or is there anything else?
Yes, I also do blood tests for women, and I list out the tests in the book, but I really take into account insulin management and blood glucose and inflammatory markers, especially cardiac inflammatory markers. I pick up a lot of inflammation, nutrient deficiencies, which can cause that inflammation. I also look at comprehensive thyroid test, autoimmune titers, magnesium, D, and zinc. So I look at a lot of blood tests to just, again, optimize. I don't want you to just be like, oh, your labs are all normal. I want this to be, oh my God, you've got the blood work of, a 25-year-old, and you're going to live a long, healthy life. So
I'm sure your patients, do you call them patients or clients?
I interchange the two, okay. But yeah, either.
I bet they just feel amazing. I mean, I know it doesn't happen overnight. It's a process.
Yeah.
But I bet they just are like, oh my gosh, thank you so much, Esther.
That's the goal. That is absolutely the goal. And, listen, it's very vulnerable and hard being a patient and going through the process, because you are trusting yourself, but you're really, and you're relying on someone else to take care of you. But I really work very hard to listen to people, because I feel like when you feel seen and heard, you automatically feel safer. You can lower your defenses. And so not having that stress there of like, oh, is this person going to take care of me? And I don't understand. I'm feeling really gaslit. Like, no one can heal in that environment, versus like, okay, listen, I'm very transparent with people I work with and say, I may not know all the answers, but if I don't know, I have a team of doctors I can consult with and find out the answer for you. Or I refer them, and we partner with really good physicians. Like, when I am out of my lane, I tell people, this is really outside my lane, but I'm going to connect you to a practitioner who can help you, because that's also the thing too. I think a lot of practitioners are ashamed or embarrassed to admit when they don't know something. And it's like, no one knows all the answers. I feel like the more I learn, the less I know. And I'm like, am I getting dumber here? Like, what's going on? I don't understand. And, it's a journey together. And I'm in it too with my clients. I mean, I stump my doctor sometimes too, and that's okay. No one practitioner knows everything, but if they're a stepping stone in your healing path, that's like perfect.
I know, I couldn't agree more. And that's why I love having a network. A couple of years ago, I thought I needed to know all the things about hormones, but there's no way I could. There's absolutely no way. When I talk about sleep, stress management, nutrition, yeah, I could, that is my lane. But when it comes to hormones, that's where I'm like, okay, you need to reach out to Esther. You need to reach out to someone else, and we can work together, but I can't have all the answers. Yeah. And I think that's so helpful when you are working with someone, whether it's a nutritionist, dietitian, or a doctor, that they have a network too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's teamwork. So
absolutely.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned were like these mental health changes. I have a question for you. I want you to talk about what we go through, and then I have a follow-up question. So talk about these mental health issues.
So this is, again, another great criminal disservice to women who go through menopause or perimenopause with really serious mental health changes, anxiety, depression. I've actually heard stories from numerous clients of their mothers committing suicide, and they're like, oh my God, I look back and it was clearly menopause, right? And my grandfather was a physician, and he would say to me, hysteria, the word hysterectomy is derived from the word hysteria. And I'm like, that is horrible. Like, how awful is that? So yes, with declining progesterone and estrogen and even testosterone, you can go through severe anxiety and depression because, as I mentioned, I may or may not have mentioned earlier, progesterone is the precursor to that calming neurotransmitter GABA. Mm-hmm. So in its absence, right, you can really feel anxious, you can feel panic attacks, insomnia, and you really need kind of a nice balance of hormones to support mental health. So women are going to their doctors with their perimenopausal and menopausal symptoms, and they not only get prescription for the birth control pill, but they'll get a prescription for an anti-anxiety and or an antidepressant. And again, if you're suicidal, if you need medication, I'm not here to tell you not to take it. I'm here to tell you, ultimately, look for the root of the root. Think about the timing of when those symptoms all came on. Think about if you had PMDD, right? But when you were getting your cycles, hey, what was my pattern? Mm-hmm. Or if you have postpartum depression, those are all hormone related. So let's see how you feel. And I really do see anxiety and panic go away with the introduction of progesterone, even if it's just the second half of your cycle. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think women are so underserved, and the fact that that's not addressed, I know. I just love to band-aid things with pills. And I'm like, why don't you think about where a woman is in her life and address that?
And, I know so many women are suffering in silence because they feel crazy. And I was just thinking this morning as I was getting ready for our call, because of my clientele, I know a lot of them see changes in their physical body. It literally feels like overnight, right? So you have this increased anxiety or depression. You start to feel as though you're kind of losing control of your body. And it's like this perfect storm to like really take a downward spiral. And my point is not to be disempowering here, but rather let's talk about this. And as you said, like what's actually coming up here. And it's not in your head. If you're listening to this and that's how you feel, like it's not in your head, and you can feel better.
It's not in your head at all. And it really breaks my heart when women say, I feel like I'm crazy, because that is, oh my gosh. I'm like, girl, just stab yourself with a knife. Like, you're so cruel to yourself. Be kind to yourself. You're not crazy. And the crazy thing really speaks to how we have been conditioned to second guess our deepest, most intuitive awareness about our body. So to me, it's it's funny. I have on the book, like on the back of the book, there's a banner that says gaslight free zone. And gaslighting was Merriam-Webster's word of 2022. And it's just, a lot of us are being gaslit medically. I have been too, no different than you. I've gone through the same thing. And I'm here to tell you, like, hold your head up high, walk out of that office and know that you are right, because there is never a woman who comes to me whose symptoms do not track with her test results. Wow. So and that is the gift of working together, because I'm like, I told you were right. Or they'll say, I knew I was right and that doctor ignored me. I'm like, well, shame on that doctor, but you were right. Never ignore your body again. Yep. It's like when you date that guy, right? And you ignore those gut feelings and red flags, right? Never ignore those feelings, ladies, whether it's about your health or the people in your life, your friendships, your relationships. Your gut is never wrong. Even if it's leaky, your gut is never wrong.
You need to make that one of your Instagrams, okay?
I'm going to. Yeah. I'm on my Post-it notes here.
That's really good. Your gut is never wrong, even if it's leaky.
Yeah. Yep. Oh my gosh, so funny.
So the follow-up that I had, and you may not have an answer to this, I just want to open the conversation. I feel as though everybody I know in their 40s now and 50s, they're all self-diagnosing or are being diagnosed with ADHD. And I'm like, is this ADHD or is this a symptom of perimenopause? And I've had this conversation with my therapist, with my naturopath. I just want to get your take on that. It's kind of wild. Are you seeing that in your practice?
I would say not in huge amounts, but it's an absolutely important question that bears exploration. And here's the thing, right? Is at this time in life too, you have to remember the roles your hormones play on your gut health too. So declining progesterone, estrogen, and testosterone all cause a shift in the state of your intestinal tract. I often see people develop, low stomach acid from just high levels of stress or bacterial pathogens that really don't belong there, or they're, not sleeping well, which also impacts your gut, right? And that progesterone deficiency and estrogen can really also alter your sleep. So 90 to 95% of your neurotransmitters are made in the intestinal tract, in your small intestine. So if you've got inflammation, I always say inflamed gut is inflamed brain. Dr. Daniel Amen is the king of this, but you really want to address the gut inflammation. Again, the root of the root. Address your gut inflammation, get on some hormones, then revisit the ADHD. You may still have it. It may be a true diagnosis, but I guarantee you there's so many things you can do with diet, lifestyle, and exercise even that can really course correct that.
Absolutely. And I mean, even our lifestyles today, just with the amount of information and the way people can get a hold of us, I mean, I'm always asking myself, because for a hot second, I self-diagnosed myself, and I was talking to someone about, like, no, Kylie, you're just a normal person in today's like modern world.
Yeah. I mean, the New York Times did a piece this week about like how our attention spans are getting shorter, and here's what you can do to help. And I personally find like being outside in nature and deleting all the social media apps off my phone are game changers with my attention, my focus, my ability to sleep at night, just quieting my brain and being able to like achieve tasks at work. Because once you go down that Instagram rabbit hole, like or any social media rabbit hole, it is long and dark, and you really have to almost like put a timer on your phone. Like, okay, it's been 5 minutes, get off your phone. Just focus on like being present in your own life. I think that's the way to kind of course correct.
I agree with you.
Reading a paper book versus anything on a screen. There is a real, it's like crack, it's a real dopamine hit that you get.
Absolutely. So the one last thing I wanted to talk about with you, because I don't feel like a lot of people are talking about this, or maybe they are and just not very loud. There's probably two things. Is you include sexual well-being as part of like this protocol. So let's talk about that, because it's probably something that a lot of people aren't talking about because it's sex. So let's talk about sex, baby.
Let's talk about sex, baby. So yes, so sexual health, right? Really, really important part of the aging process. And a lot of women tell me they have absolutely no libido, that it just like fell by the way of the dodo bird and it's gone. So first of all, again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but you've really got to manage your stress and make time for your partner. Okay. I can't say I'm always in the mood, but I do always want to connect with my husband. So like we'll schedule date nights, and we will, when our son is like out of the house, we'll sneak in a quickie. It's kind of, I watched my parents. So this is hilarious. My parents, I write about this in the book, but like they kept a stack of like Playboys and Playgirls in my dad's bureau. And like you'd open up the bureau to like put away his t-shirts. And I'm like, oh, this is nice. And like they took quote unquote naps every Wednesday. and Saturday afternoon. And they were married over 55 years till my dad passed away. But like, you know, and my mom is constantly asking me, it's like, if I go away with my husband, she'll kind of like undertones, you know, she'll be like, did you get laid, is what she's saying. But she's like, I hope it was the two of you alone in the room. And my grandson wasn't in the room. Like, Mom, I got it. Like, you don't need to, I'm good, Mom. But, you know, so you really you have to make time to connect. You have to make time for intimacy, and intimacy doesn't always equate with sex. There's emotional intimacy too. When we connect to our partners, there is a greater likelihood of sex. Women who are pissed off at their husbands, or husbands who are pissed off at their wives for not helping out around the house or not partnering in the workload, that also leads to a real lack of sex. So you want to think about organizing your family, having a family meeting once a week, okay, and saying what needs to get delegated, who's going to go buy the dog food, who's going to get the groceries, who's going to do the car pickup. If it falls on the, you know, more heavily on one person, because one person's out of the house working, person's in-house working, then you have to figure out the balance. Can we go away on vacations? Can we schedule date nights? Like, how do we build play into our lives? So it always starts with the interpersonal dynamics, but then the physical aspect too. You've got to take care of the vag, ladies, like for real. So make sure if you're having vaginal dryness or atrophy or bad UTIs a lot of the time, there's topical or intravaginal creams that you can use. There's intravaginal DHEA, there's estrogen, there's testosterone. You can apply oxytocin topically, okay? Bust out the vibrators when you need to, and just practice on yourself, because if penetration is painful, at least clitoral stimulation or nipple stimulation, like you can totally get aroused that way. Have oral sex with your partner too. Like, there's so many different ways until you're feeling more like yourself again. And then, and also replenishing your hormones systemically as well. And the other piece is the attraction and the confidence piece, okay? Because if you've gained weight, a lot of women don't want to even take their shirts off during sex. They don't feel confident. I'm here to tell you ladies something. Never, and I've been doing this almost 3 decades, never has a man said, I don't like your cellulite, or you've got to roll around your stomach and therefore I cannot have sex. They are so happy to have a warm, naked body in bed with them. Right? I always think of that line from Bridget Jones's Diary where Hugh Grant's character Daniel's like, Jones, every woman needs a butt to put, every guy needs a butt to put his beer on and park his bike in.
Brilliant.
And so, like, you know what I mean? Like, guys are not the ones obsessing about it. We're doing it to ourselves. So cut that shit out. Fake it till you make it. Like, wear some lingerie that lifts the girls up, you know, whatever you need to do to make yourself feel confident, do it, because it's really, we're the ones sabotaging ourselves.
Well, and I think go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, just know you're getting your groove back. Like, your body's in an adjustment period. It's okay. It's okay. Like, no stress or pressure around it, but definitely, like, there's steps you can take to maintain your fun along the way.
Well, I thought was so interesting. I've talked to another doctor about this, and she's like, it's really not the hormones so much, really. That plays a little bit into it. It's more about all the other stuff you just addressed. The invisible workload, the, you know, incongruent or uneven division of labor, the feelings of resentment for whatever. So it's not the hormones. It's like the stuff that we can actually work on with our partner ourselves. So
yes, exactly.
Truly, your partner just wants to get laid. So, like,
your partner just wants a hole to stick something into, okay?
I mean, don't worry about it. They're so easy. I mean, really.
They really are. And so, and listen, the more, but like, men will not get turned on if you are not turned on either. So, like, ladies, lean into it, man. Like, sex is one of the great benefits of partnership and marriage. So please go get it. Oh.
Well, then since that was fun, I'll end on a downer.
You're killing the boner.
Yes. Let's talk about alcohol because I just feel we need to
Yeah.
reinforce it. Um,
Yes.
from a nutritional standpoint, I
Yes.
understand the detriment of alcohol, and I'm not an alcohol hater. Like, I'll still have a
No.
cocktail every now and then, but as you say in
Yes.
your book, drink alcohol judiciously, or
That's right.
be mindful. So, can you talk about what's the deal with alcohol in menopause? Why do we
Yeah.
need?
So alcohol, a cocktail does raise your circulating levels of estrogen like 4 to 6 hours after you drink it. So if you're already estrogen dominant and like getting hot flashes and breast tenderness and irritability and blood clots and like with your cycles and by the way, like 32% of menopausal women develop non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So, womp, womp. So you've really got to be judicious about your alcohol. Now, the good news is this. Most of us know drinking alcohol makes us sleep horribly at night. It really interferes with REM sleep. That makes it a lot easier to be like, you know what? I'm going to give myself a good 30 days off it and see how I feel, see what my body composition looks like, see how my sleep is, my irritability. Like for me, what really got me to change was that I was a complete a-hole to my family the next day. I was so irritable. My liver was like, F you. I have to metabolize alcohol and your hormones. And guess what? Alcohol is a toxin. So I've got to metabolize that first. So now your estrogen's just going to be, skyrocketing. So I was like, I can't do this anymore. So, I mean, my husband, he loves himself, cocktails. I have curtailed so dramatically. And the times when I drink the most are I'll drink on vacation. And I'll drink when I'm happy. I can't drink when I'm depressed, tired, irritable, or just not feeling well or feeling run down. Like those are all deal breakers. So, being really judicious about it and just knowing what it does to your body. So, yeah, it makes a big difference. And I'm not a hater either. I could never abstain fully. I mean, I could if I had to,
Right.
but I don't want to.
Yeah.
Because it's an important part of my life. But I've had months and months and months without a single drink, and I love it. I'll tell you the other benefit is so much more energy, so much more creativity. And the real lesson was I could learn. I'm no different. If I drink or don't drink, I am just as much fun and just as funny, hella funny either way. So you can always be in a cocktail state of mind,
Yes.
but you don't need the drink. And and listen, mocktails are like all the rage now anyway. Yes. So everyone and their mother's launching a line. So,
Yeah, because
go
it's
get it.
really just about the glassware, right? Put your
Yeah.
mocktail in your your
In
fancy
your
glass.
wine glass. Yeah.
I
It
know,
is.
like,
It's really about the glassware. Yes.
so I love
That's
to
right.
karaoke, and everyone thinks, oh, you must have to like have a couple drinks. No, I will karaoke right now at 10:45 on Friday in the morning. Let's
Yeah,
go.
let's do it. Let's freaking go. Let's go. Oh my God. I love karaoke. Yeah.
Right?
I mean, yeah. And like, I don't know, to me, it's like such a high to be so present in your own life because it's like, that's the shit.
It
That's
is
when you
the
get the
shit,
biggest endorphin rush to me.
truly.
Not just like the sloppy drunkenness. I
Yeah,
love everybody, and then the next day you're like, what did I do?
I do.
I
Well, and
know.
you have mentioned the importance of stress management over and over and over again. And I know a lot of people that utilize that alcohol as a tool for stress management,
Yeah.
but that's not really, it's working against you. So,
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought this up because the other lovely thing I love to do is put tinctures in my mocktail, right? So I'll put in some ashwagandha, some lemon balm, some lavender, some I'm forgetting my other herbs right now, but yeah, just like a nice adrenal kind of downer. And that like just a relaxing mocktail also does really good. Some people like CBD mocktails too. I prefer just like a more natural herbal route, but whatever can let your freak flag fly, whatever works for you. And during the day, I love like a good adrenal cocktail with like water, salt, and lemon. It's like a margarita, but without the tequila, and that like really keeps your energy up and keeps you hydrated.
I think I've
But
seen you post a recipe on your Instagram. Is that right? Or
I
it's
did. Yes. Yes. And I brought out my martini shaker and just filled it with water, salt, and lemon instead.
it feels the exact same.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Grab a candy cigarette if you need to.
Oh my God, a candy cigarette. Are those even in manufacture? Like, do people even make them?
Yes, you can get them. Where I live, there's this like old time candy store and they have all the old stuff. It's awesome.
Oh my God. I wouldn't mind like a chocolate cigar. That I could get down with, but
there you go. Well, Esther, I just have to say thank you so much for writing this book. It's not your first book though.
It's my fifth, actually. Yeah.
5 books?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, you're a superhero.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for
either that or just an insane person. I don't know which.
I mean, we don't need to decide right now.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. 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 It's truly a labor of love. It really, really is, because it's a lot of work. But honestly, like the fire in my belly far outweighed the personal sacrifice. So I'm like, let's just go. Let's do it. And
Absolutely.
I can always tell when the universe wants me to write it. Like, literally, I wrote the outline for the book in 5 minutes, just sitting on the couch. And I was like, I guess it's here. It's time to go. It's time to go. So that's how it started.
So I'm going to make sure everyone knows how to find you. Your Instagram handle is Gorgeous Esther, correct?
Yes.
I'll make sure that's in the show notes. Are you currently taking on new clients? Are you booked? How's that work?
Yes, I have a wait list, but I am currently taking on clients, and I'm going to launch a group coaching program as well in March, which I cannot even wait. I'm launching an app. There's like so much good stuff coming out. So please get on my list at estherblum.com. Get my weekly love letters, my badass love letters, and that are just chock full of content and are going to tell you exactly how to sign up for my day-long event in February. And that will precede the group coaching in March. And we're just going to hit the ground running in 2023.
Oh, you will. Have you done group coaching in the past?
You know, I have done some in the past, but this is just going to be so amazing. It really will be. And this will really be focused on menopause. So we're in perimenopause, and it's just, we're going to build such an amazing community of women. I mean, we have such an amazing community, but now it's just going to get much more actionable together, because collectively we are 1,000 times more powerful than doing this alone, feeling like we're in a vacuum, feeling like we're the only ones going through this, versus being in a room of women that are like hundreds of women. And they're like, oh yeah, babe, you're not alone. You've got this. Let's do this together. And like that, you know, a rising tide really floats all boats. So
love it. I'm so excited for you, because I know that's going to be a phenomenal group, and I can't wait to share it with everyone. I just love supporting amazing women like you. Like, thank you. Truly. Thank you.
Oh, you are the best. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, Esther, have a wonderful weekend. And I appreciate you taking the time to connect with me and my listeners.
Oh, thank you so much, Kylie. I love being here today with you. So thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.